O for Cameron McGeehan in this side. If he can have a day off, that would be mighty handy.
It's that little part, isn't it? Not let their heads drop. And if and hope somehow that's got to change in this week.
We've heard it countless times. We're absolute dynamite in training, but completely the opposite on a Saturday afternoon.
There is a lot of very delicate domino situations around this whole team, doesn't it? And how quickly they can all go down if you make a wrong move.
We've had the most penalties in the league. Northampton had the second most penalties in the league. Don't be surprised if there's a penalty on Saturday, Jimbo. Who knows? Maybe this is the time that it turns, because at some point it has to, right? It has to. Can't keep going down.
Let me get out a Mick McCarthy meme and say it can.
It's a short trip up the M1 to Sixfields on Saturday afternoon for the game between Luton Town and Northampton Town. Alongside me to preview it, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, yeah, another ex-Luton player up against us, and well, let's hope this is the time that the tide turns.
Well, yeah, hopefully things can only get better.
I've got old D. Ream here next to me. We'll preview the game and hope that
I didn't sing it.
Indeed. We'll preview the game and hope that is the case right after this intro. Hello again, everyone. Welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category at the Football Content Awards. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, we're looking ahead to Northampton Town versus Luton Town. Saturday, 3 p.m, no UK TV coverage for this one, so if you haven't got a ticket to an already sold-out away end, you're going to have to find other ways and means to follow the game. And alongside me, I've got the Lutonian journalist, James Cunliffe, to look ahead to the game as always. That was a banger of a song that you mentioned in that intro, by the way. You've got it in my head now. 90s classic, I'd call that.
I hope that there's something in the air that can turn the tide here, because I can't keep saying the same things, can we?
Maybe that's the music for the dressing room before the game, isn't it? You know, things can only get better, and well, we hope that that's the case. We strongly do. Not a massively long journey. Sixfields, quaint stadium, isn't it? Against a Northampton side who actually performing better than I think most people would have expected them to. They went above us at the weekend. To be fair, most of League One are in that situation at the moment, unfortunately. Kevin Nolan is their manager, so this is a sort of Premier League sort of battle in the dugouts, isn't it? Kevin Nolan done the Premier League turns, and obviously Jack Wilshere has done as well. Ex-Hatter in opposition against us. That seems to happen every bloody week. Cameron McGeehan this time, of course. O for Cameron McGeehan in this side, have to say. How is it 11 years since he first arrived at the football club? Absolutely crazy. If he can have a day off, that would be mighty handy, but they don't score many. Only Peterborough have scored fewer than Northampton in League One this season, but they don't concede many. They've got the fourth best defensive record in terms of goals conceded this season. They've got the joint most clean sheets this season, one more than what we've got. Not expecting an avalanche of goals here, Jimbo.
Well, there's an advert for the weekend, isn't it? No, well, I wasn't anyway. And when I was looking at it and shaping up the two situations, yeah, we're really struggling to score goals, and they ain't conceding many. So that's one side of the coin. But we hope that they ain't scoring any either. That, if anything, that's probably where you could tighten this up to start with, and that's really what is sort of the order of the day, isn't it? When a new manager comes into a situation that isn't good, to try and shore it up at the back. It's kind of what Matt Bloomfield did when he came in, although he didn't get the win for 8 games. Don't think we can be in that situation this time around where we have to wait so long for a win. But yeah, I think it's a trickier game than it probably was a couple of weeks ago.
For sure, yeah, not helped any by the fact that they went to Doncaster at the weekend and picked up a win, having lost from a winnable position during the international break when they played against Rotherham. I watched that game because obviously I knew that Northampton were on the horizon. They looked like a side that their statistics suggest, they're not particularly great going forward, but they did look pretty tough defensively. I mean, the winning goal that Rotherham scored was 25-yard free kick, which he bent round the wall and stuck it in the top bins. And so, even the goals that they are conceding are worldies. So, yeah, they're going to be a tough nut to crack, aren't they? As I've mentioned, they've got Cameron McGeehan. We know all about him. We know he's going to burst into the box as late as possible. We're going to have to track that run. We don't always track midfield runners, and he's good in the air. Probably the two things that kill us the most, midfield runners and people who are good in the air. So that is a concern. There's no getting away from that. But, hopefully, as I said a few minutes ago, hopefully he doesn't have a great game and we can nullify his threat. Because if we do nullify his threat as one of their better players, then it will go at least a part of the way to ensuring that our defensive record stays okay rather than worrying about how many they might score suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, we've got plenty of example from Cameron McGeehan to know what he's going to be doing, and that we should keep tabs on him. He was a young player as well then, so he's obviously got some nous. He's been away in Belgium and come back and played a couple of clubs in England, so we definitely need to keep tabs on him. I also wonder whether, Kevin Nolan being the manager, he's got experience of firstly, he's got experience of getting relegated into Premier League and what that might entail, and how the mentality of that may affect things. And also that I'm sure he played in many a Bolton side against Arsenal and Wenger. I don't know if Wilshere was there at that time, but certainly they knew how to ruffle the feathers of elite players. So that, yeah, there's a lot of variables, as there always are, and none of them in those two descriptions are particularly favourable. And kind of what we've been experiencing is that we need everything to go for us. So there's two things to be a little bit worried about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're both believers that football teams are modelled on their manager, aren't they? So you know what you're going to get from Kevin Nolan teams: aggressive, hard-working, determined, direct. We've seen it all very much, like you say, with that Bolton Wanderers side under Sam Allardyce that he played under. They do have threats, though. I mean, Sam Hoskins has been quite irregular in League One. Usually their top scorer. I think he's a winger. Missed a penalty, actually, to make it 3-1 on Saturday. If he wants to do that on Saturday, if indeed we concede one, that'll be handy. And then another name that jumped out at me that I've sort of recall doing the rounds is Ethan Wheatley. I think he was spoke of quite highly at Man United not too long ago, and he's gone out on loan and now he's forging a career at Northampton. He scored on Saturday, so there are two attacking threats that we need to worry about. Hoskins is on the right-hand side, so that's a bit of a worry, with the left-back being a bit of a problem for us. I think Wheatley's a centre-forward, or at least he was that day that I saw him. So hopefully one of our centre-backs can kind of sort him out. You get the feeling more so than ever, particularly in light of what we said in the previous podcast earlier in the week, the review podcast earlier in the week. First goal is massive here because there ain't going to be many of them, I don't think.
That's absolutely proved the case, hasn't it, for Luton? As I said in the previous one, if Luton concede, they don't win a game. That's been the case. Every time we've won a game, we've kept a clean sheet, so we're presumably going to have to do that. We are not free scoring, other than the one at Barnet.
Well, we did score lots of goals in that game, but Burton's the league game, you mean?
All the bees. Burton.
We call these Borthampton.
Yeah, we can do. Maybe we should do. Yeah, it's a good one. We need all the sort of omens to go with us, really, and if we can do that, why not? It's going to be a hugely. I think it's going to be a very, very League One game. I think you're just going to have to fight and scrap your way through this, really. And I think that you were an advocate that you were seeing signs of that in the early part of the game at the weekend. But I think most people's memories, collective memories, will focus on the outcomes really. But if they can do that and not let their heads drop, there may be a way into this match. But it's that little part, isn't it? Not let their heads drop, and hope somehow that's got to change in this week. Now, the positives of that are that Wilshere and Powell, together with the new coaches they've just got in from Friday, will be able to get to work from the Monday and have a good run at this game, and hopefully to try and affect the situation in that regard. So when we're all disappointed after that last game, it's not all doom and gloom. When you know there are things that can change, there are some things that can change, but it's still that massive job, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, it is. But what we've got here that we didn't have going into the Mansfield game is Jack's seen it with his own eyes now. You know, we've said before, we've heard it countless times, we're absolute dynamite in training, but completely the opposite on a Saturday afternoon.
Wilshere has been saying it, Bloomfield often said it, and Edwards, that what they see in training is confidence, and that could be talk just to try and get them to feel it. It could be completely accurate, but what we're seeing is whatever that is happening on a day-to-day, Monday to Friday at the brace, it still not translating to the match day. And how do you sort that?
There is, I still think there is cause for optimism, Jimbo. Look, we know all the problems. We highlighted them, and we spent more time highlighting the problems in the review episode than maybe highlighting some more of the other things that were eye-catching on Saturday. 66% possession on Saturday. That's a huge figure for Luton. It is. 82% pass success rate. That's an even bigger figure for Luton. Usually this season, Luton have been operating in the high 60s, low 70s for that. So that's a massive improvement. And had any of those chances gone in, it's the cherry on the top of that, Obviously, those two statistics just get us in position to score, and of course, we then get to the problem that no one is scoring. But at least we're getting into that position, right? At least we've got some control of the ball. Now, in theory, long term, over a long period of time, and you have to judge this over a long period of time. Of course, Jack's going to get judged on Saturday, and I get that. But over a long period of time, if we have 2/3 of the ball, teams aren't going to have as many chances to score against us. Now, I know Mansfield created a lot because our heads dropped, but if the ball's in play for an hour, and it never is in a game of football, is it? But if the ball's in play for an hour, they've only got, and we've got 66% of the ball, they've only got it for 20 minutes, of which a lot of the time they're going to be in their own half. So, your defence is going to naturally improve because he's not getting overworked. So, whereas Matt came in and shut up shop in terms of low blocks and everything else, Jack's come in and clearly wants the ball to stop the opposition from scoring. So 66% of the ball against Mansfield, who looked a useful side when they had it, to be fair, is good. Now, we need to work on that final third play, and that's kind of where I was coming at on in the review podcast, that if we can just help them relax a little bit, rather than snatch at a chance, one might just find the bottom corner, and against a team here that don't score many goals, if we go 1-0 up, maybe it's them that not collapse, but struggle to get themselves back into the game, and maybe our shoulders raised slightly higher, and who knows, maybe this is the time that it turns, because at some point it has to, right? It has to. Can't keep going down. I mean...
let me get out a Mick McCarthy meme and say it can.
Well, yeah, you're right, it can, of course, but, it has to stop at some point. Where it stops, I don't know, and let's hope it's pretty bloody soon, and it's not like it was last time and we ended up in the conference, albeit we know we didn't end up in the conference because of anything that we've done on the football pitch, but there will be a time at some point where it will stop. It happens to everyone that's been on this slide, Sunderland, Wolves, whoever the other team was who've done it. And it might just be that one result sorts it. I don't think it will, to be honest, because if it would, then Doncaster would have been the catalyst for that. But who knows? If we can get a win, and then we've got these 2 cup games with a little bit of pressure off of us, where we can maybe use the confidence that is gained from that win to maybe build on it. I mean, I think most people would expect us to go and beat Brighton under-21s based on the results of the under-21 teams in that trophy over a period of time. They don't generally get results, do they? Brighton have already lost in this group. And then, of course, we've got a non-league team who are second in the conference that, if we're half decent on the day, you'd expect us to come out on top if we do the right things. And then all of a sudden, you just don't know, do you? You could be going to Stockport with a result here. You're into the next round of the trophy, which we are if we beat Brighton, and into the second round of the FA Cup, one win away from Arsenal, Liverpool, whoever it may be, with a slightly different outlook. It's all ifs. Of course it's all ifs. But at least there were numbers on Saturday that showed us that there was improvement under what we've seen in the last few games, because we never had that much of the ball. And actually we used it pretty well. Just didn't score.
We are trying to find those positives. You have to try and find those somewhere. Now, but was it that Mansfield were quite comfortable and sort of sat back a bit? I think there's a case to say that. They never looked like getting broken down on that time, so you can have all the possession you want if you're not doing anything with it. And then it comes down to that big C word again, doesn't it? Confidence, because the only way you're going to fashion those chances is to have the confidence to look up and play a potentially dangerous ball that may get cut out, and maybe you don't because you fear what the repercussions were going to be. And so somehow that's got to be taken out of the situation. I gave my view on what I think that could be in the previous podcast, so you can go and watch that.
So on that point of view, then it might help us that we're away from home. It's not the biggest away end. I think it's something like 1,300 of us going. Anything that they do try, by and large, isn't going to be greeted with the house coming down on their shoulders or anything, is it? So maybe for a few weeks we've got take advantage of being away from home. It's handy because if the Rotherham game's called off like the other two have been in the international break, then you're looking at Bolton at the end of November for the next time we're at home in the league game. So we've got a good old period of action before we're at home again in the next league game to kind of build up a little bit of confidence. If not away from home, then not in front. I mean, I wouldn't expect Forest Green to have for that game to be a full house now that it's on Halloween and on a Friday night and on television. So maybe that will kind of help, because you're right. I mean, there were signs of people trying things on Saturday that didn't always come off. There were a couple of times in the first half, the period that we were on top, where Kadir made good runs. We tried to find him, but the pass was either over hit or under hit, and the defender cut it out, or if it was over hit, it just went out for a goal kick. That the more they do it, you would imagine they're going to find him, and even more so when it's Morris down that right-hand side, not so much Kadir, with Morris having that explosive pace. And also on the other side, Millie Ali did try things throughout the course of that game. Even in the second half, he went past that defender once they switched him to the right side, which I thought worked out well. We never saw that under Matt at all. Millie Ali was, every time he played, he was on the left-hand side. Looked like that right-hand side would suit him better. Obviously, the concern is then that we haven't got anyone for the left-hand side, so I get that. But he went past his defender at will. Eventually, you would imagine someone will be on the end of a cross. He put a cross in the second half that whizzed through the 6-yard box that, if we had a striker worth his salt, would have been there sliding in to have an easy tap in. At some point, the more they do that in training under Jack, surely the penny will drop somewhere along the line. Forget the other end for a minute. Let's score some goals. Because that'll help our cause, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, it would. I mean, that's got to be, I suppose, where the work is to fine tune those. Well, I mean, it's all over the pitch. You've got the mentality and the confidence side of things, which I wonder whether it's a catch-22 there, because you can only really properly improve that when you start winning games. So how do you start winning games? Or try and fashion more chances. So I understand that, and maybe that, you know, they're not scoring too many, Northampton. You've got to try and keep that, you know, as low as possible. Well, preferably 0, because the stats say we don't get victories when we concede goals. So there is a lot of very delicate domino situations around this whole team, doesn't it? And But you know out there, if you stacked up dominoes, how quickly they can all go down if you make a wrong move, and that's probably where we are at the moment.
Yeah, I was playing Jenga with my nieces the other day, and it's very much like that as well, isn't it? You pull the wrong block out, and wham, it all comes to pieces. Yeah, Luton then. Well, obviously, we couldn't really do too much in terms of the team when we previewed the Mansfield game because we didn't have a Scooby how Jack was going to set up. I think we kind of thought he'd go with a back four. I don't think that surprised us in any way, shape, or form. Every team he's played in, every team he's coached, played a back four. I've seen people, Jimbo, saying, should we change the formation for this one and go three at the back because four at the back's obviously got Naismith and Makosso out of position. And I see it. I don't think we should. The plus side to it is we'd get two strikers on the pitch, which is fine. But none of the strikers are scoring anyway, are they? But I'm of the opinion that whatever it is, we need to play it for a period of time now because continuity is a big problem. Matt never named the same 11. Quite often he kept on even if he did play the same players, they would play in a different position. Nigel Longwake in particular, I think he's played about 4 different positions and he's only been at the club 2 months in terms of playing time. That's no use to man or beast. So I think we do need to play the same formation. And I don't think we lost on Saturday because of the formation. I think we lost on Saturday because we made a right ricket, putting a ball through for a geezer to stick in the top bins, and then they scored a penalty. Don't think that was the formation. And actually, to be fair, I don't think we lost against Stevenage because of the formation. Really poor clearance from Mads Anderson for the first one, and we cleared a set piece straight to the geezer for the second one. That's not formation bound. You could argue that Blackpool's goals were a formation, and that's absolutely fine. We know that we've got problems at right back, which hopefully someone's going to come back and sort out in the not too distant future. But
yeah, well, I mean, Wilshere after the game believes it's technical.
I think
issues.
so too.
And he was a technician, so hopefully he can export some of that ability to his new squad. So if it's just that,
well, by technical issues, presumably he means the ball didn't stick. The first touches wasn't great. You've mentioned it a few times since Wilshere was appointed about playing on the half turn. There wasn't too much of that or too many people doing that. They are technical issues. There is a mental issue as well. You know, once teams start attacking us, we can't seem to stop the flow, turn the flow of the tide, can we? And things like that. But yeah, I don't think it was a formation thing. Yeah, the 2 Blackpool goals were. Makosso just went with the wrong man for the first one. And if he was at 3 at the back, that's where he would be.
Yeah.
And obviously the second one was just one ball straight through the centre of the park and down that right-hand side, as I say, until Walters, Adolphin, Jones, whoever else who's naturally suited to play in there is back, then we will have to grin and bear it. It will be the same if we play 3 at the back. We'll still have the same issue with the right wing back not being defensive, and indeed the left wing back, because presumably that would still be Millie Ali. So I'm certainly not a advocate of changing it after one game. I'm assuming Jack's played a formation that he's comfortable with playing, not the formation that he thinks we're comfortable at playing. The question is, where can he tweak it? Because it needs to be better. Of course it needs to be better. We don't need to be conceding goals to quite the rate that we are. But if they're mistakes, there's nothing he can do about it. And the first one on Saturday was a mistake. I don't think Nicky Wells is going to play anyone clean through on goal like that. Well, I hope he plays a Luton player clean through on goal like that, but I don't think he's going to do it to the opposition again. And of course, you can't do nothing about stupid penalties from a yard out that's belted at your hand. We're getting to a stage, aren't we, where actually you're going to tell your striker to smack it at someone's hand because you've got half a chance of getting a penalty at it. It can't be a penalty. But I think we can tweak things. I suppose the first question would be, is Ted and Mengi fit? Because he went down and got substituted, and we generally know in history of Ted and Mengi here that when he goes down because he's injured. He's a bit of a warrior, isn't he? That if he can go on, he will go on. We've seen him play with injury quite a few times. So he went off. So I would have my doubts as to whether he's fit. That would probably mean that Naismith has to move inside or Makosso has to move inside, depending on which way you fix it. If it's Naismith, at least you can play Bramall at left back. If it's Makosso, goodness only knows who we can play at right back, unless someone like a Walters or a Jones is fit. The fact that neither are on the bench on Saturday suggests that they won't be. So we might be having to look at a back four of Bramall, who is actually a left back. That's fine. Naismith, Anderson, who, if we are up against a direct side, should be okay. Direct team's probably not going to expose their lack of pace, and Bramall's got pace to cover with Naismith and Makosso at right back in that situation.
That'd be what I'd go for. I mean, if you're going to change any of the fullbacks that played at the weekend, I think it would be Naismith. I don't think Makosso did much wrong. I think he actually probably had a fairly decent game, to be honest. It's not where I want to see him playing, to be honest.
We want him in the middle.
I want him in the middle. He's fairly dominant, and he's quick as well. So, but I think that just makes sense to me that Bramall would come in as a left back. Calvin Naismith has played there, but younger in his career. He's been converted to a centre back ever since Jones did it, hasn't he? So I think that's where he's at. That's where he's going to be best suited, if anywhere.
The form of Naismith is a concern, but he's got to play somewhere because we haven't got many defenders in the house, have we? Actually, on Naismith, we did that thing, didn't we, in the first half when we were playing well, where when we're attacking, the left back goes into centre midfield that you see these Premier League teams doing, and Naismith was actually quite comfortable with that. The idea being that having a defender in there alongside the holding midfielder to make a double pivot means that the counter-attack's not on, and they didn't counter-attack us at all. At 0-0, did they, Mansfield? So that worked, and obviously he's comfortable on the ball, Naismith, to play a simple pass out to Ali or whoever it may be. It's only, again, when things were going against us that we tried to panic and the Hollywood balls, which I don't think is what Wilshere wants. So it'll be interesting to see if Bramall can do that, if he's a left back, if he can go in there. And I mean, he looks comfortable on the ball. He looks athletic enough to do it. I don't see any reason why not. But again, until you've seen it in action, you are guessing. I think the midfield three did enough to suggest that they're the midfield three in this game. I think Fanny was good for the time that Luton were good. Clark was brilliant. Mm-hmm. And obviously Saville is the holding midfielder, and until Marvellous is a little bit fitter, I don't see that changes at all.
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, the only person on the bench that we're all kind of clamouring for more minutes to see is Jake Richards, isn't it? But I think he'd probably fit into the place where Clark was playing, and Clark has really been the only player that's stepped up for the whole season, really. Not only on the pitch, but he's always doing the interviews as well. So, he's really proven his worth, Jordan Clark.
I'm feeling a bit sorry for Clicker. He rarely gets the winning interviews, but he always gets the losing ones, doesn't he? And it's like, obviously, someone else has obviously done well, like Nelson at Burton or whatever, and gets the plaudits when we win. The wingers. He mentioned on Saturday, didn't he, that he was proud of how Millie Ali kept on going. Probably wasn't particularly enamoured by the end product at the end of it all the time, but he did keep going. He never shirked the ball. He always wanted the ball. He is starting to annoy me that he waits for the ball to come to him. Go to it, Millie. Not only do you make a bad pass good in that situation, but you're up to speed and you've got some speed when the defender gets to you. You're not got to beat him from a standing start sort of thing, but he is what he is. I think he'll be one winger, probably start on the left-hand side, and I guess the right-hand side will all depend on whether Shayden Morris is fit or not. We don't actually know what was wrong with him or where he was, but we can assume that, or I think I can assume, or I am assuming that because he wasn't on the bench, he's injured.
But that's what I heard as well. Yeah, a strain. So whether he recovers from that or not, we like him, don't we? Shayden Morris. We want to see him playing, but Kadir and him can interchange. So I'm comfortable with that being the winger pair. I think it's just the forward is the main focus here, isn't it? And I think we all know where that's going to be.
Well, it's not going to be Nakeem Wells, is it?
No.
I know Jack said that he was happy with his. No, I got to remember how he phrased it. Happy with his performance?
As effort, I think.
Effort.
Yeah. And things he was trying.
Yeah. But either way, his confidence is shot. And as I said in the last podcast, the reaction to his sub didn't help with that in any way. Yates looked lively without threatening when he come on. I think there was one that he poked through the legs of someone for Nelson to get onto, but he didn't read it at all in the second half. But never really got a chance, albeit your striker should be on the end of that Millie Ali cross that flashed across the front of goal. But I still think he's got more goals in him than Lassie Nordos. And I know that Nordos has got the physicality and he holds the ball up well and things like that. But in a game of few goals and potentially few chances, I'm not sure I want a geezer who looks like he'll miss rather than score. Whereas you could probably say the same about Yates, but his goal scoring record of the past tells you that at least somewhere, somehow, somewhere along the line, he'll put the ball in the back of the net. Maybe with more regularity than Nordos. Is that fair?
Well, I think that we can look at some evidence, can't we? That when he played in the cup game against Barnet, he was clean through and didn't convert. Nordos, I'm talking of. So there's that, and
the Stevenage goal, the header at Blackpool,
that too. And you look at Yates's record, particularly in this division with Blackpool, and he didn't get off to a particularly great start in the season. It took him a while to get going, and then he scored 20 plus, didn't he? So he can do that. He needs the service. The service was there. You've already mentioned it. That Millie alley ball, you'd expect him to be there, but he hasn't played very often, so that's the thing. But your view of the lineup at the weekend for the Mansfield game was that he was always going to go with those experienced heads. Well, Yates is still experienced, so there's one way you could swap it out, whereas Nordos is untried and untested to a large degree. So I would expect Yates comes in for that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we'd love Al Hamady to come in, wouldn't we? But again, if he's not on the bench, surely by now he should be in a position where he can give us 20 minutes when we're struggling in a tight game or something like that. But he's not even been on the bench, so we can only assume that we can't factor him into the equation. So we'll keep on doing that until we actually see him appear on the bench. Because I mean, having not had much of a pre-season, he's obviously going to have to build minutes up, things like that. Maybe the 2 cup games if he's around, he can do that for. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it'll be Yates. What I couldn't work out on Saturday, and I was looking, but it probably wasn't the game because, like you say, Mansfield were happy to sit deep and let us have the ball. Do you think we're a pressing side under Wilshere?
Well, the early part of the game where you said there was improvements, I was seeing that they were closer to their opposition players and they were forcing that issue.
Wells nearly had the goalie again, didn't he? Like he did at Peterborough.
Yes.
Goalie pinged one up into the middle of the main stand.
Yes, it's just that they didn't do it for the entire time, and I guess that is a tricky thing to do anyway, fitness wise. Even if you're like all peak fitness, it's a hard thing. So sometimes you've got to know when to do it and when not to. But it was there for maybe 20 minutes, and then I didn't really see it so much after that. So maybe that's another thing that they have to try and build towards. But we didn't really get a sense of what Jack wants to do in terms of style and philosophy, because all the talk that he gave us beforehand was all about how he needs to try and bring confidence and unity. Yes, we saw that didn't happen, and I think that's more down to the players' mentality and their experience than anything to do with Jack Wilshere. So that sort of stuff is going to come along as we go through the games, and hopefully not too long, but we need to see the signs of that. That is one early sign. I kind of would have expected him to play that way anyway, but yeah, in terms of formation and structure and all that stuff, it's definitely going to be I don't want to use the word work in progress because that was a Matt Bloomfield thing, but almost an experiment at the moment that it's going to have to be solved pretty quickly there.
Yeah, I think he said he's going to drop his sort of technical style on it, drip by drip, didn't he? I'm paraphrasing him. He didn't say that, but that was the way that he said it. I can't remember the exact quote that he said. But if we are a pressing side, then Yates will press better than Nordos. And sort of obviously, Nordos is there to hold the ball up, and Yates is more fleet of foot, isn't he? So that would be another sort of tick in the Yates box, wouldn't it? And who knows, if we get a penalty, maybe Yates is the taker and scores it, and away we go. I know that he's missed a penalty as well, hasn't he, against Plymouth? But still maintain, I want my striker to take a penalty because I want my strikers to be selfish and score goals. We had this discussion, didn't we, after the Barnet game when Yates was screaming blue murder at that chance that you just mentioned. Nordas hit straight at the goalkeeper. I want my strikers to be selfish, but I do want them to score goals in being selfish.
I do that, but Kudea's on the pitch and he's slotted that way nicely, and of course, got the confidence of it. So I mean, I think you have to have a penalty taker rather than see who fancies it. That doesn't strike a good chord with me in any way. That to me is kind of where totally different end of the spectrum, really, but where all of England's penalty shootout failures came from, where it was just like the English mentality, well, who wants to step up for it, rather than let's practice this, let's have a core of players that can do it and go from there. So I'd rather somebody that had the confidence, and for me that would have to be Kadir. If, I don't think anybody would tolerate Nicky Wells having another penalty. It's just, you just got to play the percentages there, and he doesn't have it.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to say, look, get some confidence. I mean, you mentioned about who fancies it. Wilshere was in an Arsenal side who had plenty of penalty takers, didn't they? So if Henry got fouled, someone else would have it, and vice versa. And I mean, then you had that silly situation where Henry passed to Pires and all that nonsense going on. Thankfully, we didn't do any of that stuff. Yeah, and of course, if Morris is in instead of Kadir, he's also scored a penalty against Barnet, hasn't he? So yeah, maybe whoever's at right wing can be a penalty. I mentioned penalties. We've had the most penalties in the league. Northampton had the second most penalties in the league. Don't be surprised if there's a penalty on Saturday, Jimbo.
Well, it may be the only way anyone scores a goal.
Well, we've still got to score it though, haven't we? That's part of the problem. We might have had the most penalties in the league, but we haven't converted the most penalties. I think we've missed 2, haven't we? Is it 3? I can't even remember. Yates scored his penalty against Plymouth, didn't he? I should correct myself on that. I wasn't at the game, of course. I'm remembering back. But yeah, so we're not seeing too many changes. We're seeing Mengi drop out at the side if he's not fit. Naismith shuffling across and Bramall at left back. And the only other change that we're seeing is Yates for Wells up front. Kearley's still the goalkeeper in goal. I know that people keep on talking about Shea replacing him. Not for me, Clive.
Well, we didn't have any hope with that. The first goal, it was a cracking shot. And penalties, the goalkeeper really shouldn't be getting it, which kind of makes the Wells one even worse, really, because
made a brilliant save.
He hit it home
early doors, didn't he? Kearley, that kept it 0-0 and kept the sort of buzz around the place for a bit longer than what it ended up having. Yeah, that's the 11. Let us know what you would go with. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we would like to see Richards in the side, but not. I mean, Clark's, you can't take him out after that performance. And I think Fanny did enough in the time that we were good on the pitch to suggest that he's worthy of the other spot right now, but I don't think it'll be long before we find a way to get Richards in. I wonder if he's a player who can play in one of those wide positions, because he's got enough skill at his feet, and whilst he wouldn't beat a player for pace like Millie Ali or Kadir, he might be able to do 1-2s around the box and thread passes through to the striker, which maybe the wingers at the moment are a little bit heavy touched, aren't they, at the minute? Our wingers' passes are sort of here, there and everywhere. Crosses are flashing too far past the goal, or passes are like that one from Ali to Clark on Saturday, nowhere near its recipient. And Richards, you would have thought if Richards was at the byline when Ali was for that particular one on Saturday, he would have picked Clark out rather than give it 10 yards away from him.
Yeah, and that's where Millie Ali has to improve his decision making, and the final ball or the final shot is very, very hit and miss. So yeah, there's improvement everywhere, isn't there?
There is, yep. So yeah, there's a few places that Richards might get in, but maybe not from the start on Saturday. After all that, then Jimbo, Northampton versus Luton, how does it finish?
0-0.
0-0, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, we're back to sort of low bars of progress, but keeping them out, gaining a point on the road, not a bad effort. They are above Luton in the table. Let's not get all the, let's not put all this expectation that we should be beating these clubs when they're clearly above us at the moment. Let's beat them first and get above them before we can start fancy. That's such a long way down the road for me at the moment. I think it's just cut out the silly mistakes. If they're technical, you'd hope that that Wilshere will be able to spot that, which he already has, and together with Powell and his 2 new coaches should be able to implement that, because one of them's come from Arsenal, who's been there for 20 years. So if there's a technical coaches out there, he must be one of them. So cut out those mistakes, But then the hardest part of football always is scoring goals, and we're finding that the hardest. So I don't see any goals in this whatsoever.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not sure it's as hard as we make it look, but yeah, you're right. It is the hardest part of football. Just stop losing. That's the first port of call, isn't
Well,
it?
exactly. Yeah.
Just stop.
Just cut that out, and
yeah, if you include the Cambridge game, I think it's now 5 defeats in 7, beating Doncaster and drawing with Blackpool in that run as well. So the first port of call is to stop losing, isn't it? Before we can go anywhere. I mean, look, it'd be great if we win on Saturday, but let's stop. As I said earlier in the podcast, let's stop losing. Point on Saturday, get positive results from these 2 cup games, and all of a sudden we go to Stockport in a better frame of mind, don't we? In what would that be, 2 weeks' time? So that's the first thing. Stop losing. Do I think we can do it? Yes, I do think we can do it. I don't think this is going to be a particularly wide open game. Wouldn't be surprised if set pieces are the difference. Generally, we're all right on them. We don't concede too many from set pieces, do we? And by and large, we get chances from them. Obviously, it's got to go in. Millie Alley's one on Saturday being the latest version of those. 1-1 then for me, as you've took the 0-0 out of the equation. 1-1 for me. Penalty for us, penalty for them.
Yeah, it seems the fair bet, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, yep. Let's have your score predictions. We'll get the leaderboard and everything done for the review podcast, which will be out at the usual time in the early hours of Monday morning. And yeah, you'll be able to see exactly where you are. Do you agree with our team selection? Would you like to see others in? How many changes? Are you an advocate of the formation change? Or are we sticking with what we've got under Jack, but just making sure that we do things slightly better, which is pretty much the sort of the way of thinking that I've got, have to say. That is pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks for watching all of the podcasts this week. We really appreciate it. We'll tease in the fact that there might be another one to come before that review episode, so keep your eyes out for that. And yeah, enjoy that if and when we get that out to you. Thanks again to all the folks at Marsh House, the proud new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. Just one final reminder that they've got a fundraiser for the studio here on Saturday between 2 and 10 called Don't Be SAD, an event to beat the winter blues with the live music, uplifting activities, fundraising support and food. So if you're not going to the game on Saturday, or if you are and when you get back into Luton, you want to pop down, would really appreciate it if you can support these guys. And we also, as always, thank Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music. Until next time, well, until the review episode, actually, for what we hope will be Town stopping the rot at Sixfields from Jimbo and myself. Come on, you Hatters, stop losing, please.